Cactus Chop made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's political podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's political podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
I think for far too long in this country, millions of people felt as though they weren't represented at all by the establishment media.
GB News was needed because there literally was no other voice. Everyone was saying the same thing.
GB News exists because there is a desperate need for fearless journalism that puts the people first.
GB News came on the scene as a disruptor, and it has always been a disruptor ever since.
The mainstream is all about keeping the status quo as it is, ticking along quite nicely. They don't want to ask difficult questions.
But journalism is journalism at the end of the day, and we're not here to serve any masters. Our masters are our audience.
Charlie Peters, he gave a voice to the victims of grooming gangs, and now, of course, it's led to a national inquiry.
GB News exists to make sure those concerns are put forward and people feel as though what they want to ask is put to those in power.
We don't take orders from anyone. We ask the questions our viewers and listeners want answering.
I know what's actually being discussed by my family and my friends. Us ordinary, hard-working British people have had enough. We've had enough.
They're fed up with the same old establishment nonsense. Everything that we do is opening up conversations that others are afraid to go at.
Why are you illegally bringing people into Britain?
That is our job. Our job is to get to the truth.
If it's important to you watching or listening at home, then it's important to us as well.
That's what makes us the fearless champion of Britain.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christys Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions, but every Friday night at 9 p.m. you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christys Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel. It's 9 p.m. I'm Patrick Christys and breaking tonight. It's the China spy scandal that could bring down this government. And tonight, Jonathan Powell, it turns out, the head of national security, suppressed a major Whitehall investigation into Chinese spying after lobbying from the Treasury. Powell decided in June that the government would not publish details about Beijing's espionage, apparently. So, if Keir Starmer has lied about the Chinese spy scandal, surely he will have to go. And Jihadi madness. I reveal 2 Islamist terrorists who are about to be released. Plus, Is the NHS infested with racist pro-Palestinians? But do these rabid protesters need to thank President Trump for bringing peace to Gaza? Also,
I'm announcing this government will make a new free-of-charge digital ID mandatory for the right to work by the end of this Parliament.
well, ID cards will now be used for tax, the NHS, school places, and possibly even for children as young as 13. In other news,
I cannot love Madeline more than I love her. You know, I would never have taken a risk. It was something that wasn't even a decision. That's how safe it felt.
I've got the very latest from today's shocking Maddie McCann court case. On my panel tonight, we have got political commentator Chloe Dobbs, Tory peer Lord Bailey and former Labour Party advisor Matthew Larser. And you know what? This is the most sense the Prime Minister has ever made. And what's happening here?
You're out of my shot.
Get ready, Britain. Here we go. In the last few minutes, there's been huge breaking news that I think might bring down the government. Stay tuned.
The top stories: a senior Hamas chief has declared an end to the Israeli war and claims the start of a permanent ceasefire. It comes as key Israeli figures meet this evening to sign off the deal. Donald Trump hailed a momentous breakthrough in the Middle East and says Gaza will be redone. The US president added all 20 surviving captives will be home by Monday or Tuesday. The US president told his cabinet, "We're going to go to Egypt for an additional signing." He explained the agreement has already been signed, but this will be an official signing. Israel and Hamas agreed to phase 1 of his Gaza peace deal earlier today to see all Israeli hostages and close to 2,000 Palestinian prisoners released, humanitarian aid enter Gaza, and Israeli forces pull back to agreed lines. The US leader also says Iran wants to work on peace.
Ended the war in Gaza and really, on a much bigger basis, created peace. And I think it's going to be a lasting peace, hopefully an everlasting peace. Peace in the Middle East. We secured the release of all of the remaining hostages, and they should be released on Monday or Tuesday. Getting them is a complicated process. I'd rather not tell you what they have to do to get them.
The Prime Minister thanked the US President for his role in the plan to end the fighting in Gaza. Sir Keir Starmer praised the tireless diplomatic efforts of the US, of Egypt, Qatar and Turkey in moving towards peace. He says the first phase of a Gaza peace plan would not have happened without Donald Trump's leadership. The Foreign Secretary Yvette Cooper has also spoken this evening.
After 2 years of devastating suffering, the tens of thousands of lives lost, of the hostages and the pain for hostages' families, the hostages being held, and of course the humanitarian crisis. So now to have this agreement on the ceasefire, on President Trump's peace initiative, is so incredibly important. And today in Paris, we've had different nations coming together to show our strong support for President Trump's initiative.
In other news, 19 migrants have been sent to France on 2 flights. It's part of the government's returns deal with France. The Home Secretary, Shabana Mahmood, said sent migrants trying to cross into the UK by small boat a message that if you come here illegally, you face being detained and removed, so think twice before making that journey. The 19 returns, including a flight earlier today, followed 7 deportations last month. Further flights to France under this pilot scheme are scheduled to take place over the coming days and weeks. And Sir Keir Starmer is launching a 4-week blitz to bring the buzz back to Britain's pubs, making it easier for venues to stay open later. The Prime Minister says pubs are the beating heart of UK communities and wants to cut red tape holding the industry back. It follows a government review which found outdated licensing rules were shutting down historic venues. Those are the latest headlines for now. More from me in an hour.
For all the latest from GB News whilst you're on the go, get the GB News app. Scan the QR code now to download or visit gbnews.com/app.
Good evening. Breaking right now. According to the Daily Telegraph, Jonathan Powell, who's the head of national security, suppressed a major Whitehall investigation into Chinese spying after lobbying from the Treasury. This is the latest, really very serious development in this China spy scandal that is threatening to bring down this government. Powell decided in June that the government would not publish details about Beijing's espionage from the Foreign Office's own China audit. His decision came after the Treasury said that releasing information from the comprehensive analysis of China's influence in Britain could damage trade and investment links. The audit, promised in Labour's manifesto, became just 2 paragraphs in Powell's national security strategy. Wow. Huge news. This is the scandal that could bring down the Labour government. Christopher Cash and Christopher Berry were both accused of spying for China. They were arrested under the Official Secrets Act in March 2023. They were charged with espionage offences on the 22nd of April, weeks before Sir Keir Starmer becomes Prime Minister. They always denied the charges, and they continue to deny the charges. But then, on the 15th of September, the charges were dropped, apparently because Labour did not want to say that China was a national security threat. Sir Keir Starmer, who's conveniently jetted off to India, blamed the Tories.
You have to prosecute people on the basis of the circumstances at the time of the alleged offence. And so all the focus needs to be on the policy of the Tory government in place then. That's the only place that the evidence could be focused on.
But now, this does not appear to be true. Governments and our intelligence services have repeatedly described China as a national security threat. And that revelation I brought you just at the top of this segment would indicate that this government was also acutely aware of the national security threat that China poses. And according to that, chose to suppress it. In 2023, the Tories described China as, quote, a threat to our people, prosperity and security. But look, don't take my word for it when it comes to being a little bit squiffy about all of this. The ex-head of MI6, Sir Richard Dearlove, he's spoken out, contradicting Sir Keir Starmer. The Director of Public Prosecutions, Stephen Parkinson, has. Former Cabinet Secretary and Head of National Security, Lord Sedwill, has. And the former Head of the Civil Service, Simon Case. They have all come out and said, in a roundabout way, that they don't buy Sir Keir Starmer's excuses. And now more is emerging by the day. Sir Keir Starmer's national security advisor is that man called Jonathan Powell. And it turns out that he has held extensive meetings with Chinese communists personally, and involving an organisation that he founded called Intermediate. This was revealed on Guido Fawkes earlier today. Chancellor Rachel Reeves inexplicably went to China whilst our economy was crashing here. Energy Secretary Ed Miliband went to China, signed a secret Green Deal. We are not allowed to know what was in that deal. And the Chagos Islands surrender. We were told that it was all about international law. Who helped to make that law? Well, it was Zhu Hanqin, a former official for the Chinese Communist Party. Who stands to benefit most from this Chagos deal? It's China, because they basically use Mauritius as a proxy state. Now, let's just remind ourselves of all of those big hitters who say that Sir Keir Starmer isn't being entirely honest about this China spy case. You've got the ex-head of MI6, you've got the Director of Public Prosecutions, you've got the former head of the Civil Service, you've got the former head of National Security. Do you believe them? Or do you believe the man who has repeatedly been accused of dishonesty? Sir Keir Starmer. I mean, he couldn't even be honest about this.
Now, soon after I became an MP, I went to Oldham for a by-election up there. I was taken to a street to meet a woman who I was told had strong views on immigration. I knocked on the door. She invited me in. We had a cup of tea and a rich tea biscuit.
Well, it turns out that he actually called her a racist. She booted him out of her house and then vowed to never vote Labour again. She testified to that, both in print and on GBNews. In my view, there are 2 possible explanations to what's going on here. Number 1, keeping China happy instead of prioritising our national security. Number two, that this government is in some way compromised by the Chinese communists. Now, there are very serious questions to answer as to whether or not our government is really working for us. Let's get the thoughts of my panel. We've got political commentator Chloe Dobbs, Tory peer Lord Bailey and former Labour advisor Matthew Larser. Sean, I'm just going to come to you first on this. Those really damning revelations that have just come out as I was walking into the studio, actually, about Jonathan Powell and the suppression of intelligence about what a threat China is. Where are you at on this now?
Look, you don't need to convince me that China are a threat. I think what this shows is the Prime Minister's judgment is terrible. There is something that he needs to answer, and he should be beyond this questioning. The serious senior people who've come out against him, that is unprecedented. And it is now him versus them. If he doesn't have as convincing story as they are, I do now believe we're in the territory where Keir Starmer has to go. He really does have to go.
Chloe, is this what brings down the government?
I think it possibly could, or at least Keir Starmer. I mean, for a long time I've said that he's going to cling on. There's been a lot of talk with Andy Burnham and various others, but there's not a very clear successor to him, which might mean he clings on. But I think this is so serious. I mean, you've just read out the list of a load of huge, really senior individuals, not just a few journalists calling him out, calling him a liar. That really could tip him over the edge. So it's going to be very interesting to see what happens over the next week.
What is it then, Matthew? Do you think that this government has chosen misleading the British public to keep the Chinese happy, or are they compromised by Chinese communists?
I don't think they're compromised by Chinese communists. I think every British government has to walk a tightrope. We cannot pretend that we are not hugely economically integrated with China. You know, I don't know, you know, we're probably sitting on a sofa made in China, for example. People watching this on a TV made in China. So the idea that we can ignore China or treat it as a complete pariah state is just is not going to happen. And the Tories didn't do that. They had a very close relationship under David Cameron and George Osborne. But I think it's right that it's now more sceptical. I don't think that they are suppressing it. If you actually look at what happened is that rather than publishing the China audit separately, about 5 different things were wrapped up into one national security strategy. So that included other things like the Strategic Defence Review, etc. And within the China audit, it begins, the China audit therefore recommends an increase in China capabilities across the national security system to strengthen our resilience and readiness. Right, but that doesn't sound to me like sucking up to China.
Well, so hang on a minute, because I'm not entirely sure that it will be, if there is some kind of compromising or whatever else, that would bring him down. I think it would be a lie, the deceit. So if Sir Keir Starmer, which he's done, has gone on record whilst in India and said to us, said to the world, that the reason why we didn't prosecute here, or we didn't give the evidence, or whatever it was fundamentally because of a mistake from the last government. They didn't say that China was an enemy or a national security threat either. If it turns out that this government, his government, made a conscious decision to suppress intelligence on China or to not prosecute based on keeping China happy, that is a lie, isn't it? And he would have to go over that.
Look, I don't think that he's saying that. What he's saying is that in terms of directly interfering in the case, they've said that ministers weren't involved, and they've said that the court would have to rely on what the Tory government did because the alleged offences, which have now been dropped, took place under the Tory government. If that turns out not to be true, then he's going to face real questions. I don't think it's directly related to the, I wouldn't call it suppression, to the change in this report.
But what do you think about that? Is there some deceit going on here for you?
There's 3 things to look at here. First and foremost, why is this so complicated? Why was it such a major thing in their manifesto, then it disappeared when they came to government? That's the first thing. The second thing is as well is, what would this be like if the shoe was on the other foot? What would Keir Starmer be saying? Let's be very clear. We're only judging him by the standards that he set out when he was in opposition. He has to answer these questions, quite frankly, questions that shouldn't exist. That's a key thing. But the important thing here is for these senior figures to come out against him. It is almost an unwritten rule in our political system. When you're in a senior job like they do and you become former, you also become quiet. He has tested their integrity. They're now pushing back to test his. I think he has to answer that question. And the key thing is here, this now feels like Britain's national security is up for sale. As long as it's integrated with you enough, you can buy our silence. That is beyond the pale.
I just want to reiterate, this is breaking in the Daily Telegraph right now. This is what we're leading on, that Jonathan Powell, who's the top national security advisor for Sir Keir Starmer, according to them, suppressed a major Whitehall investigation into Chinese spying after lobbying from the Treasury. The Treasury basically said that if the reality was put out there, it would damage our trade relations, it would damage the British economy. Powell decided in June that the government would not publish full details about Beijing's espionage from the Foreign Office's China audit. And the reason why we're led to believe that this China trial, spy trial, has collapsed now is mainly because this government, as I understand it, did not want to describe China as an enemy or outline details about spying. Well, if Powell has suppressed it, then they have crashed the trial, haven't they?
Yes, I mean, it seems clear to me that the CPS have said the reason why this collapsed is because the government was supposed to provide information and evidence as to the extent of the threat that China poses, and they failed to do so. It is clear that that is the Labour government's responsibility, even if it is about something that happened back in 2023, and they haven't given the CPS the appropriate evidence. And you've got all of these people who have come out and said that MI5, MI6, the government, when the Tories were in power, clearly described China as a threat. It is clear as day that he is lying, and people are absolutely fed up of Keir Starmer's constant lies, and a lot of lies he's got away with to some extent in the past, maybe not in the polling, but he stayed in position. But this is one that really actually threatens our national security. And I think what has happened is that this government is so desperately trying to grow the economy. It's not exactly going very well. And so they can't possibly bear the thought of losing out on any trade deals with China, else Rachel Reeves is absolute toast.
Yeah, I mean, but for a party...
So they're willing to do anything, even if it threatens our national security quite seriously.
For a party and indeed now a Prime Minister that made such a virtue out of morality and principle. Correct. This seems quite surprising. But I do want to put a couple of things directly to you, which is that the allegation here would be that Sir Keir Starmer is not acting in Britain's best interests. And the second thing would be that he's a liar. Where are you on both of those things? Because they are obviously very big allegations.
Sure. I mean, look, Keir Starmer has to be held to the same standards as everybody else. So if I don't think he has been lying, but if he's found to have lied, then clearly he's in trouble. But I don't think he has. But obviously, I may be proved wrong. In terms of not putting Britain's interests first, I don't agree with that. The actual section on China, which comes from this China audit, is pretty firm that we need to build our capability so we are better equipped to deal with the challenges and things like cybersecurity that come from China. So I don't think the government is saying that there's no problem with China. It's saying that there is. Now,
we wouldn't have to do that, would we, if China wasn't a national security threat?
Correct.
Well, it basically says it's a national security threat. I'm not a lawyer, so I don't understand why in this case, in this court case, that wasn't said in the right place. But the government has clearly said that we need to be prepared better than we have been under any previous government for dealing with China.
So you've also got to bear in mind that at about 10 p.m. tonight, all of the newspapers drop. So the Telegraph have gone early with this, which is why we now know about the latest revelations. Keep your eyes and ears peeled, because last night the Times went very big on it as well. So there's a possibility that there's more to come. How do you see this playing out, Sean?
There's two things. Firstly, Labour's response to this has been a downgrading of China's risk to us as a nation, as opposed to what the previous Tory government was saying. How I see this playing out is Keir Starmer will have to wriggle. He's very, very lucky that there isn't a natural successor to him in the party, in his Labour Party. But I think the Labour Party internally, for its own survival, will now have to start to elevate certain people to take him on, because he is a busted flush. He has been in this position on so many occasions. Even if he survives this, he's weak, he's useless. The Labour Party, for their own good, now need to look at replacing Keir Starmer.
All right. Well, look, what I will say about this is, like I said, there's almost definitely going to be more to come tonight, so you need to stay glued to your TV screens or your radio sets. Keir Starmer, for his part, is staying firm on the idea that his hands were tied. This was the fault of the previous administration. Jonathan Powell, I imagine, would vociferously deny that he's done anything wrong in this particular case. And also, for what it's worth as well, both of the individuals who were charged with espionage, essentially, they do deny any wrongdoing. And, well, the case has collapsed, doesn't it? So, they can sleep easy at night. But, right, I've got a lot more coming your way. But before that, I want to tell you about the Great British Giveaway, of course. Massive motorhome, loads of cash. Here's how.
You're not going to want to miss our greatest Great British giveaway so far. You could bank an incredible £30,000 in tax-free cash to spend however you like. And if that wasn't enough, you'll also get to drive away in this brand new motorhome. With thanks to Marquis Leisure, this brand new 2025 Benimar Primero could be yours. It comes with all the mod cons you'd expect from a vehicle worth over £74,000 and comfortably sleeps 4 people. This prize package is worth over £104,000. And remember, if you can dream it, you can drive it away. For another chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB16 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrants must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 31st of October. The winner will be contacted live on GB News, week commencing 10th of November. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
OK, loads coming your way. We are going to be taking you to this devastating, shocking courtroom evidence in the Madeline McCann court case. Her mum, Kate, her sister, Amelie, and they've opened up about their stalking hell from a Polish woman. I'm going to lift the lid as well on the trial of 2 women accused of tormenting the life of the McCanns. But first...
We ended the war in Gaza and really, on a much bigger basis, created peace. And I think it's going to be a lasting peace, hopefully an everlasting peace.
Do the pro-Palestine Brigade now need to thank President Trump for helping to end the conflict over there? And that ties in, by the way, to something I'm going to be talking about later on, about whether or not our NHS has been infested with racist pro-Palestinians. Stay tuned.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk then?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints. How many fingers have I got up?
About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Britain was once the envy of the world. But look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m. only on GB News.
So it wasn't as well this government's position, it was the Tory government before's position. Now that's not a political to and fro, that's a matter of law.
Huge trouble tonight for number 10, huge. The Prime Minister's National Security Advisor, Jonathan Powell, suppressed a major Whitehall investigation into Chinese spying after lobbying from the Treasury. That's been published in the Daily Telegraph. This is the scandal that could finally bring down the government. Make sure that you keep it GB News because we're going to have more information for you from 10 p.m. But first, should the pro-Palestine brigade actually be thanking President Trump for his Middle East peace deal? It's time for the head-to-head. Well, President Trump has been hailed today after Hamas officially agreed to that Middle East peace plan.
Last night we reached a momentous breakthrough in the Middle East, something that people said was never going to be done. We ended the war in Gaza and really, on a much bigger basis, created peace. And I think it's going to be a lasting peace, hopefully an everlasting peace. Peace in the Middle East. We secured the release of all of the remaining hostages, and they should be released on Monday or Tuesday.
Well, there are questions now about whether or not he deserves a Nobel Peace Prize, but the Israeli Prime Minister seems to think so, posting on X earlier today, give him a peace prize. There you go. Meanwhile, the pro-Palestine brigade, of course, are set to protest in London and probably other towns and cities in the UK this weekend. Instead, surely, they should be thanking President Trump. Going head-to-head on this now are the journalist and Middle East expert Jonathan Sakadotti and leading member of the Revolutionary Communist International, Hamid Alizadeh. Thank you very, very much, chaps. Great to see you both. Jonathan, I'll start with you. Right then, so should all those pro-Palestine protesters inevitably on the streets this weekend be having banners saying thank you, President Trump?
Well, it's hard for me to speak for those people because I obviously don't really understand them very deeply. But I would say that if you are, against the war that's been going on in Gaza, and if you don't like what's been happening for the people in Gaza after they started the war on October the 7th, 2023, then I presume you would be relatively pleased that there is a prospect of that war ending and that the terrorists who have been keeping those hostages all that time would be forced to give them back. Obviously, anyone of any good faith would want that to happen, especially even if only because they feel it would ease up the pressure on the people in Gaza, but presumably also because if they're decent human beings, they would want to see those people returned back home from the torture, starvation, and in many cases actually death that they've been subjected to there. So I would assume that most people would welcome this. Obviously, on the other side of this, it's the idea that there will be many, many actual terrorists released back into Gaza from Israeli jails, and that is quite a bleak prospect.
Hamid, I'll bring you in now. Would you like to take this opportunity to thank President Trump?
Well, no, I wouldn't. I don't think the Palestinian people have much to be thankful for, to be honest. They've been starved, they've been shot, they've been bombed. Their homes have been destroyed, hospitals, schools, water supply, sanitation, and all of this with the full complicity of Donald Trump, Joe Biden, by the way, Keir Starmer, all of them. And what they're getting now is the possibility, we don't know if this is actually going to happen, but the possibility of a cessation to the immediate bombing, but a life in the most barbaric conditions, with their affairs being run by a committee headed by Donald Trump and Tony Blair, people who have nothing to do with Palestine. And then they'll be guarded by troops provided by other Muslim countries. So I don't think this is a very thankful situation to be in. And it's not even reducing Gaza to a colony, but to a prison camp, essentially. And no, I don't think there is anything. So
when everyone was out on the streets, I'll sit with you, Hamid, for this, if that's all right. So when everyone has been out on the streets demanding a ceasefire, constantly, ceasefire now, now they've got a ceasefire, do you not think it's, a little bit, I suppose, shameless that just because it's President Trump who's helped to broker that deal, that people can't say, well, thank you, you've given us what we wanted?
What the Palestinian people want is an end of oppression. and an end of occupation. That's not what's happening at all. They're being held at gunpoint.
Right.
President Trump said, unless you accept all of my conditions, I will obliterate you and I will unleash a hell on you that's unlike anything you've ever seen. So I don't know. I don't think that's a very, very good situation. And this deal is no deal for the Palestinians. And furthermore, there's no guarantee that it will resolve anything.
Right. Okay, Jonathan, I'll let you come back to that then. So it looks as though that this deal, despite potentially it being a ceasefire, bringing a stop to the killing on both sides, a kind of prisoner/hostage exchange, it's not good enough. People can't bring themselves to thank the president.
Well, look, I can't really speak to those people. I assume there are some people who are kind of into Palestinianism as a movement who aren't pleased about this because they consider it to be too much of a defeat for Hamas and the other Palestinian terrorist groups who engaged in those brutal and horrific activities on October the 7th. Those people maybe don't like this sort of deal because what it tries to pursue is peaceful coexistence between Palestinians and Israel. And indeed, the 21 points of the plan, I mean, we'll never get near, numbers 21 and 20 and there downwards. It will be amazing if we can just get back the hostages that they've been keeping and torturing for that long and starving. If that bit gets done, that will be an achievement, I think, especially as there are, Hamas sources now publishing in Arabic that God let the ceasefire be like the Treaty of Hudaybiyah, followed by a conquest like the conquest of Mecca. So we can see that there are forces within mainstream Palestinian political movements, including from Hamas, who really just want to do this in order that they can regroup and later on come back with more bloodshed and more violence against Israel. People who are in favour of that probably won't like the idea of a ceasefire that leads to coexistence.
Hamid, I'm just going to give you the final word on this, and sorry, we are slightly pressed for time, sorry, what I want to ask you is what did you actually want then? So would you have been happy for a deal that kept Hamas in power in Gaza?
No.
Right.
I'm not in favour of anything that's going on at the moment. I'm for the overthrow of the Zionist state. Now, the other gentleman who's on this show, I forgot your name, you talk about peaceful coexistence. But that is exactly the opposite of what's going to happen. What's going to happen is a Palestinian people is going to be held in a chokehold by a regime which has no interest in peaceful coexistence, by a regime which thrives, by a regime which thrives on division, which thrives on fomenting division between Jews and Palestinians, Jews and Muslims.
But Hamas would have to go in under any deal, Hamid, wouldn't they? Sorry, but Hamas surely would any deal would have to have involved Hamid, wouldn't it? Hamas.
I'll tell you this: Hamas is the result of the conditions of the Palestinian people. If you get rid of Hamas, another resistance movement will come up because the Palestinians are put in such horrible conditions that the only way to defend themselves would be to organize themselves. And so you can get rid of Hamas, something else will come
so no matter what, all right. So no matter what happens there, we're going to end up with Islamist terrorists running Gaza.
Want to destroy Israelis and Jews. I mean, he said it himself. That's what he wants to see as the end of the war, is just a destruction of Israel. Come off it.
No one is talking about the destruction of Israel.
Well, you did. You said the overthrow of the Zionist regime. That's what you said.
The Zionist state is an abomination and a disgrace to the Jews. And to the memory of the Holocaust. It has nothing to do with the destruction of the Jews.
Sorry, I don't want to be accused of trying to cut anyone off. I'm not. We're massively pressed for time. I'm going to have to go because I've got other things to go. But thank you. It was very much a head-to-head, so I appreciate that. That is journalist and Middle East expert Jonathan Sakadotti and the leading member of the Revolutionary Communist International, Hamid Alizadeh. Thank you. Right, gosh. OK, quite revealing stuff there, I thought. Coming up, I've got a big exclusive for you. A failed Jihadi asylum seeker jailed over a plot to poison us all could be free by Christmas. Also,
so it wasn't as well this government's position, it was the Tory government before's position. Now that's not a political to and fro, that's a matter of law.
Huge developments this evening in the latest Chinese spy scandal that could bring this government down. Stay tuned.
Be nice to escape the grey.
Clear skies, here we come.
As clear as our travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast. Some unsettled weather across eastern areas of Spain. Storm Alice is set to bring heavy showers and also some thunderstorms. Mostly dry and settled across Madeira and also Tenerife, but all eyes on eastern areas of Spain. Some intense thunderstorms here likely to bring some localised flooding. A few showers across parts of Sardinia on Friday, but elsewhere, once again, mostly dry and settled. Plenty of sunshine, and this theme will continue over into the weekend with warm temperatures too, widely in the mid to high 20s.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hi there and welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. It is a largely cloudy night out there with a few spots of rain in places, but there will be some cloud breaks, and then increasingly so on Friday we'll see brighter skies develop. High pressure is moving in. That doesn't necessarily mean clear skies or indeed entirely dry weather. We do have a lot of thick cloud coming in at the same time, and that will continue to bring some outbreaks of light rain and drizzle, particularly for the north and west of Scotland, Northern Ireland, North West England and North Wales. Away from these areas, actually, a few cloud breaks, particularly towards the northeast and also the southwest and in the southwest with light winds, temperatures dipping in a few shelter spots into the mid-single figures, a few mist and fog patches first thing. But the best of the sunshine during the morning will be eastern Scotland. Now for Shetland, outbreaks of rain from the word go and a few spots of rain continuing for the northwest Highlands, but mostly dry across the rest of Scotland, and plenty of sunshine through the central belt as well as eastern parts. The cloud broken up well across northeast England as well, but actually for the Midlands, Wales as well, we've got a weak weather front lingering here, bringing thicker cloud and some drizzly rain from time to time. That's going to drift its way south, and that means that southern parts will be cloudier compared with Thursday. And after any mist and fog lifts across the southwest, I think we keep generally cloudy skies. Brighter skies will develop further north across much of Scotland, northern England and North Wales, and where we do get that brightness, temperatures reaching 17 or 18 Celsius. Then into the weekend, we start with, again, a few mist and fog patches, but plenty of dry and fine weather for many. Best of the sunshine this time, Wales, the Midlands, eastern England, eastern Scotland. Western Scotland turning increasingly grey and damp through the day, and into Sunday, well, it's very similar. High pressure holds on, a lot of cloud around, but some sunshine in places.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
We're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, you didn't say that, though.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
If you are just joining us, having switched over from watching England beat Wales in the football, then where have you been? Because there is huge breaking news tonight that, in my view, could bring down this government. The head of national security for Keir Starmer, Jonathan Powell, it's emerged, has suppressed a major Whitehall investigation into Chinese spying after lobbying from the Treasury. They didn't want it revealed because they thought it could damage our economic relationship with China. This raises huge questions about the Chinese spy scandal, this government's involvement in not helping to progress with that trial. And if there's been lies here, then someone's got to go, haven't they? But first, Madeline McCann's sister has said that her family's alleged stalker sent creepy messages claiming to remember playing with her as a child. This is all bombshell evidence in a court that was revealed earlier today. Emily McCann told the court that Julia Von Delt was desperate to convince her that she was indeed her missing sister. In one instance, she allegedly printed edited pictures of the pair and sent them to the family's home address. They said that she'd clearly edited the pictures to make me look more like her, which was disturbing. I didn't look like that, and I knew it had been changed. She's Polish and has Polish family, so it didn't make any sense. Kate and Jerry McCann, the parents of Madeline, who disappeared, of course, in Pride and Luge in 2007, also gave evidence. They described the distress that they'd felt, including when Vondelt and one other woman allegedly turned up at their house in December. Both women deny all the charges. Joining me now is the global reporter at the Mail Online, Nick Peaser. Nick, thank you very, very much. So this is some really quite startling revelations in the Maddie McCann case, and also, I could be wrong about this, we've not heard a lot out of Jerry and Madeline's mother, Kate, recently, and certainly not from the siblings either.
No, excuse me, that's absolutely right, Patrick. Yes, this trial started on Monday and it's set to last a good month. And it involves, as you said there in the introduction, a Polish woman by the name of Julia Vandelt and a Welsh woman, a lady from Cardiff called Karen Spragg, who's 61. And they are accused of stalking the McCann family at their home in Leicester over a period of almost 3 years, between February 2022 and and February of this year as well. They sent messages to the McCanns, they telephoned the McCanns, they got in touch with as you said there in your introduction, through Facebook and social media to the McCann children as well. And they basically, these two women insisted that Julia was Madeline McCann. They asked the parents to take a DNA test, and they said that Julia was convinced that she was Madeline McCann, but we know for a fact that is clearly not the case, because Julia is 24 years old and Madeline would be 22 years old. We also know that her parents Julia's parents are alive and well in the Polish city of Wrocław.
Yeah, I mean, it's absolutely bonkers. It's also very concerning for the McCanns, clearly. And like I said as well, it's more, the thing that stood out for me was Maddie's brother and sister giving statements, which, you know, they've I don't think, have they said anything publicly before?
No, nothing at all. We see them occasionally at the annual memorial or the annual remembrance service for Madeline, which takes place in Rothley every year in May to mark the anniversary of when she disappeared. You may remember, you and your viewers, that she was taken from Pride de Luche in 2007. And every year, Kate and Jerry mark that by attending a simple service there in Rothley, and the children do attend there. They've been photographed. We've now discovered in the last few months as well that the son Sean is now a aspiring swimmer as well with the UK swimming team. You may have seen pictures of him getting medals, but no, they've kept very low profile. They very rarely, apart from that, they're very rarely seen. Kate and Jerry, we do maybe hear, as I say, on that memorial, I say memorial, so we don't know for definite that Madeline is deceased, yes. So at that remembrance service, they also post every year on the Finding Madeline page a message to Madeline saying that they are hoping and praying that she will come back to them one day. We know that in their evidence yesterday, Madeline's mother, Kate, gave evidence from behind a screen. She was that upset and traumatized. Jerry spoke actually in the court as well, and he also broke down several times. I think the key thing for me, Patrick, as well, maybe segueing slightly, is that during his testimony, Jerry McCann said there is no evidence that Madeline is dead. Yet, as you and your viewers will know, there is a gentleman there is a man, a convicted paedophile and rapist, who has been released from prison in Germany.
Christian Bruckner, yes, go on.
Christian Bruckner, exactly. And the prosecutor said to me many times, we have evidence that Madeline is dead. So this is all rather strange as well. And it beggars the question, you know, what do the prosecutors know that perhaps they haven't shared with Madeline's parents?
Just quickly, Nick, because we are very, very pressed for time here. Do you have any additional information on this Christian Bruckner guy at all?
Do I have any? Sorry, Patrick.
Have you got anything on Christian Bruckner? You know, he's been released now, hasn't he? I think.
He has, yes. I know that he is living basically in hostels and in hotels from hand to mouth, really, basically across Germany. His first port of call was Neumünster, but he didn't spend very long there. He was there for 3 or 4 days before social media outed him, and he is now on the move again. We know that he is due to face another trial later this month at the end of October with regard to insulting a prison governor when he was in custody serving that 7-year sentence for rape, which he was released from last month.
Thank you very much, Nick. Tremendous to talk to you, as ever. Take care. I'll talk to you again, Nick Peaser there, who is the global reporter at the Mail Online. Big news incoming. I've got a huge exclusive for you about a jihadi who plotted to poison us all, essentially, who's going to be released. You'll never guess where he lived. Also, as well, this ongoing saga, the China spy trial. Expect more revelations at 10 p.m. on that. Will it bring Keir Starmer down? But first...
You will not be able to work in the United Kingdom if you do not have digital ID. It's as simple as that.
We all saw it coming. Now it's here. Digital ID is going to be much, much worse than anyone could have thought.
Welcome back to Britain's Newsroom with Andrew and Beth.
Hello everyone, Patrick Christys here.
I'm Michelle Duke, Britain's News Channel.
Access the stories that matter to you. Take the GB News family with you on any device. And as long as you have an internet connection, tune in to GB News anywhere on the planet or beyond. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's News Channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk then?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's News Channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in a chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's political podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's political podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Britain was once the envy of the world. But look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m. only on GB News.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first.
Well, and that's what you get on GB News. Lively debates, lively conversation.
And we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pierce.
And me, Miriam Gates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
No matter the state it's in, this is our nation. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for a genuine, honest discussion on where we have been, where we are going, and where we are with the people who set the direction. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Only on GB News.
Welcome back. The Prime Minister has today insisted that mandatory digital ID cards have the potential to become a massive success. Here he is.
One of the things on digital ID that I do think we need to emphasise and make the case for, frankly, is the great benefits of digital ID. You can see from Estonia the speed with which people can access services that are available to them, which has been transformational, and there's great enthusiasm in Estonia for it. Here in India, I think it's 1 billion people have digital ID. It's been taken up on a voluntary basis in huge numbers. Not least because it means that you can access your own money, make payments so much more easily than is available with others.
Estonia was hacked, India was hacked. Critics have warned that these cards could be used to access your tax records and indeed to claim benefits. But breaking this evening, the Daily Mail are reporting that children as young as 13 could now be forced to have one of Keir Starmer's digital ID cards. Joining me now is the co-founder of the Together Declaration, Alan Miller. Alan, your thoughts on this?
Well, I think it's a travesty that we've got a Prime Minister that never had anything in a manifesto that's now declaring on the international stage that he thinks that Aadhaar, the digital system in India that's leaked lots of data where people have had that sold, where people that were entitled to benefits have not had it, where it was said it was going to be voluntary, then it's mandatory. And now he's telling us that we might be able to have access to our money and that you're going to need to have access via this thing to almost everything else, whether it's benefits or anything. At the same time, when we've seen the Department of Work and Pensions say that they're going to be snooping and going into our bank accounts, and all the other issues we've seen with the two-tier approach to people, what they say, the idea that we have a centralised state system by these technocrats is utterly outrageous. They're also doing an attack on directors, Patrick. It's why at the togetherdeclaration.org we've got a big open letter and a petition to say 8 million directors should not be forced onto digital ID. In November, they're saying to anyone who's new as a director, you'll have to do this.
Is any director of any company?
Any director of a limited company, Food Companies House. So they're doing that as well as children and around the Children and Wellbeing Act as well, the idea that everyone's going to have a digital ID. But we can win this. We can stop it. We've done it before with vaccine passports, and we've done it before when there was the mandatory jab. And this is really serious, and we'd encourage all of your viewers and listeners to get involved with this. Togetherdeclaration.org. We're going to fight back across the board. We're not going to stop. And he can say what he wants, right? He can start doing punitive measures. He can say that we're going to make the NHS digital and look at all the merits. What we need in Britain is solutions to policies. We need things that are going to tackle borders, deal with hospitals, not forced, centralised, biometric digital ID.
Because also, the other context to this is we are right in the middle of a Chinese spy scandal. And more on that, by the way, in a couple of minutes' time. Why on earth, right in the middle of a Chinese spy scandal, would you think... I tell you what, let's make it easy for people like Beijing. Let's put all of our personal information, let's put your kids' personal information in one place, controlled by the government.
Absolutely. And they always say it's to keep you safe or to keep the kids safe. In the end, what it means is we won't be able to log on even to the internet. We know that the interfering nanny technocrats want to have a say on how much consumption we have, what kind of carbon footprint it is, what kind of food we're eating. Let's not allow this to happen. Churchill set the precedent in 1952. I want to keep you free. We don't need these ID cards. We need to make sure that we say no. There has to be ability to not have it, to opt out. Technology is great, not a forced digital ID card, and we'd encourage everyone to get involved together.
There was even talk about the Tony Blair Institute's initial drafting of this, meaning that you could use this online system to report your neighbours if they were too noisy, and that could damage some kind of community score. I mean, we all know the direction of travel. Right now, in China, there are people homeless on the streets because they've been blocked out of their bank accounts because they've got a low social credit score. Why do we need this? Look, Alan, thank you very much. Never been a bit squeezed because we had that breaking news at the top, but always a pleasure, mate, so take care. Thank you very, very much. Alan Miller there, who's the co-founder of the Together Declaration. Look, coming up, huge exclusive for you. A jihadi that was jailed over a poison attack could be free by Christmas. There's also another jihadi who is being released. He is being released in the coming weeks. Again, I've got all that information for you. But, of course, the big breaking news... Jonathan Powell, the head of the National Security for Keir Starmer, is right up to his neck in this Chinese spy scandal, according to allegations today. Find out why, and find out why I think this could finally bring down the Labour government. Stay tuned.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Some unsettled weather across eastern areas of Spain. Storm Alice is set to bring heavy showers and also some thunderstorms. Mostly dry and settled across Madeira and also Tenerife, but all eyes on eastern areas of Spain. Some intense thunderstorms here likely to bring some localised flooding. A few showers across parts of Sardinia on Friday, but elsewhere, once again, mostly dry and settled. Plenty of sunshine, and this theme will continue over into the weekend, with warm temperatures too, widely in the mid to high 20s.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Boxed Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
This is your chance to win a motorhome and cash in our biggest giveaway to date. Courtesy of Marquis Leisure, you could be the proud owner of this 2025 Benamar Primero. It comfortably accommodates 4 people and can be driven on your standard driving licence. Plus, you'll also bank an incredible £30,000 in tax-free cash to spend on anything you like. Make sure you don't miss out. For another chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB16 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 31st of October. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
No,
Because the failure is...
You're
the failure
deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
In the GB newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
We're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk then?
No, that's it. This is where it matters. Real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact is Trump made a good start. No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
5 hosts, 5 opinions, 5 fearless debates,
5 unfiltered takes on the day's news.
5 reasons not to be anywhere else on Saturday night.
This is the Saturday 5. You got me good there.
Britain's biggest Saturday night TV show.
It's not a bad brand. Yeah.
Uncensored.
Very, very racy tonight.
On the unpredictable.
What did she say? Can you translate it for us?
And always entertaining.
And how can a country go from being led by William Wallace Saturday nights from 6 p.m. only on GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
You're going to want to stay tuned, trust me.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christys Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions. But every Friday night at 9 p.m, you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christys Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel. It's just coming up to 10 p.m. I'm Patrick Christys and breaking right now. The man at the centre of the China spy trial scandal that's threatening to bring down this government, Jonathan Powell, suppressed a major Whitehall investigation into Chinese spying after lobbying from the Treasury. This government is hanging by a thread tonight, and if Sir Keir Starmer is found out to have lied about this, he will have to go. And, big exclusive for you, Jihadi madness. I'm going to reveal 2 Islamist terrorists who are about to be released. Plus, is the NHS infested with racist pro-Palestinians? But Do these rabid protesters need to thank President Trump for bringing peace to Gaza? We're also going to go live to GB News presenter Ben Leo, who is outside the White House. Hello, Ben. He's outside the White House for us tonight, and you'll have to find out exactly why very shortly. But do you remember that time he was there in New York not so long ago, rampaging through those crowds who were all waving Hamas flags, etc.? So watch out for that. But on my panel tonight, we've got political commentator Chloe Dobbs, Tory peer Lord Bailey, and former Labour advisor Matthew Larser. And I don't know about you, but I think this might be the most sense the Prime Minister has ever made. Took the words right out of my mouth, Sir Keir. And what's going on here?
You're out of my shot.
Get ready, Britain. Here we go. Big exclusive for you. A jihadi who wanted to poison us all could be about to be released. Next.
Patrick, thank you. The top stories. A senior Hamas chief has declared an end to the Israeli war and claims that the start of the permanent ceasefire. It comes as key Israeli figures have been meeting this evening to sign off the deal. Donald Trump hailed a momentous breakthrough in the Middle East and says Gaza will be redone. The US president added all 20 surviving captives will be home by either Monday or Tuesday. Israeli Foreign Minister Gideon Saar says a ceasefire will come into effect immediately once the deal has cabinet approval. Israel and Hamas agreed to phase 1 of his Gaza peace deal earlier today to see all Israeli hostages and close to 2,000 Palestinian prisoners released. Humanitarian aid enter Gaza and Israeli forces pull back to agreed lines.
Ended the war in Gaza and really, on a much bigger basis, created peace. And I think it's going to be a lasting peace, hopefully an everlasting peace. Peace in the Middle East. We secured the release of all of the remaining hostages, and they should be released on Monday or Tuesday. Getting them is a complicated process. I'd rather not tell you what they have to do to get them.
The Prime Minister thanked the US President for his role in the plan to end the fighting in Gaza. Sir Keir Starmer praised the tireless diplomatic efforts of the US, Egypt, Qatar and Turkey in moving towards peace. He says the first phase of a Gaza peace plan would not have happened without Donald Trump's leadership. The Foreign Secretary, Yvette Cooper, has also spoken this evening.
After 2 years of devastating suffering, the tens of thousands of lives lost, of the hostages and the pain for hostages' families, the hostages being held, and of course the humanitarian crisis. So now to have this agreement on the ceasefire, on President Trump's peace initiative, is so incredibly important. And today in Paris, we've had different nations coming together to show our strong support for President Trump's initiative.
Elsewhere, 19 migrants have been sent to France on 2 flights as part of the government's returns deal with France. Home Secretary Shabana Mahmood sent migrants trying to cross into the UK by small boat a message that if you come here illegally, you face being detained and removed, so think twice before making that journey. The 19 returns, including a flight earlier today, followed 7 deportations last month. Further flights to France under this pilot scheme are scheduled to take place over the coming days and weeks. And Sir Keir Starmer was given a bold welcome in India, with streets in Mumbai lined with thousands of photos of him and the Prime Minister Narendra Modi. On his first visit to the country, he's led a record delegation of more than 100 UK business, university and cultural leaders on a 2-day trade mission. The Prime Minister said the UK-India partnership could boost Britain's economy by nearly £5 billion a year. And speaking on digital IDs as well, Sir Keir Starmer told GB News in his press conference today that they're now about accessing your own money. Those are the latest headlines for now. More in an hour.
You can now watch GB News live across the United States of America and the world on Truth Plus. Scan the QR code to find out more, or visit gbnews.com/truth.
Before we talk to you about the China spy scandal, devastating new revelations revealed this evening that I think could well serve to bring down this government. I want to bring you a huge exclusive, and it's breaking now. I can exclusively reveal that an al-Qaeda terrorist who stabbed a police officer to death and plotted a major poison attack in Britain could be out of prison by Christmas. Kamal Bourgas entered Britain illegally in the back of a lorry in 2000. He was an al-Qaeda sleeper agent. He plotted a mass poisoning that could have indiscriminately killed as many men, women and children as possible. He planned to spread ricin, the poison, around London. He even wanted to smear it on people's car door handles. Bourgas was jailed initially for 17 years in 2005 for that plot, but in 2003 he was actually jailed for life with a minimum of 23 years for murdering Detective Constable Stephen Oak, who was conducting a raid on the house that he happened to be in. Now, here's another detail for you. Where was that house? It was in Crumpsall, in Manchester, exactly the same area where this happened. What we can now reveal is that Bourgas has been allowed to seek parole. Remarkable, isn't it? What a massive, massive act of national self-harm. But I can actually reveal another devastating jihadi story for you right now as well. Ibrahim Roger Anderson, a ginger-haired Muslim convert from Luton, was jailed for trying to drum up support for Islamic State, as well as disseminating ISIS execution videos. He actually told an undercover police officer that he wanted London to be under the Islamic State flag. What I can tell you now is that he will be released in the coming weeks. It's happening. In a report by the parole officials, they said this: Mr. Anderson had undertaken an accredited programme to address extremist offending and ways of disengaging. Mr. Anderson engaged well with this and completed all the required work to a good standard. The panel was told that all necessary work in a prison environment had been undertaken, and Mr. Anderson had also been working with an imam to help him better understand his faith. 2 witnesses supported Mr. Anderson's release. A 3rd witness supported the release with a degree of caution. In this case, protective factors which would reduce the risk of reoffending were considered to be the support Mr. Anderson has from professionals and from his family. He's been seen to be motivated to do well in the future and to work openly with those involved in the case. Last week, we had a jihadi terror attack. Yesterday, I revealed to you that what appears to be a UK-trained member of the Afghan Special Forces is working as a human trafficker in Calais, posing with guns, with money, and doing the single-finger Islamist hand gesture. One card-carrying member of ISIS is going to be released in weeks now, possibly to the very same community where he became radicalised in the first place. And the lunatic failed asylum seeker who wanted to kill as many of us as possible with poison is now also up for parole. What the hell are we doing? Let's get thoughts from my panel. We've got political commentator Chloe Dobbs, Tory peer Lord Bailey, and former Labour Party advisor Matthew Larser. Sean, starting with you on this. How are we even considering releasing some of these people?
There's 3 things to be said here, as always. Firstly, I'll be the first to tell you that the parole board's job is very difficult, but this particular case isn't. Don't do it. It's that simple. But it goes to a deeper fundamental challenge. People seem to think in our rehabilitation services that a couple of weeks with some nice imams and some nice, well-meaning officials means somebody will change their world view, which they were prepared to murder over. I simply do not buy that. And the idea that you'll sit in prison and do the work properly, of course you will, because you want to leave prison. Will you change your ideology? I'm sorry, I don't sense that be the case. And this means will you leave the public deeply exposed. The third thing to say, the really important thing to say, if either of these 2 men, one is yet to be released, let's see, but if either of these 2 men, if they are both released, does anything in the public eye, it will put the parole situation under real serious scrutiny. They need to think twice here. These men have done extreme things and should be treated in an extreme way, not as your general, normal, average prisoner.
Well, this is one of the reasons why I wanted to bring this to your attention. It's not just because it's shocking, but I also want to make you aware that we are about to, and indeed we have already had in some cases, a wave of jihadis like these released, because there was a big time period about 20 years ago where we arrested a load of them and we put a load of them away, but they were jailed for about 20 years and were up for parole, which is now. And it appears that we are giving them parole. We've had the bloke who wanted to blow up the London Stock Exchange released quite recently. The judge wished him well on the way out. And now we've got a bloke who wanted to indiscriminately poison as many people as possible who could be free by Christmas, Chloe.
I mean, it just seems like we're not taking the security threat in this country seriously at all. We've just been looking at the breaking news about the issues with China with regards to our national security. Now, that's perhaps not terrorism related, but I think it just shows this general picture at the moment where we've got the highest, terrorism threat ever. We've just had an attack last week, yet the authorities don't seem to be taking it seriously. I'm sure that this news is going to be sending shivers down the spines of the victims, families, and the Jewish community after what happened just last week. Why on earth are we letting these people have parole? I'm sorry, but if you are someone who planned to murder potentially hundreds of innocent civilians in the name of a crazy jihadi ideology, you should be behind bars for life.
There's also other aspects to this, aren't there? So he lived down the road from where Mr. Jihad lived. Where will he be released to? Will he be released back to an area where they say he had historic connections? Are we about to, several days on from a terrorist attack in that community, are we about to release this guy who wanted to poison us all back to that same community? Can you imagine the scandal there? Well, I can, because the world seems nuts at the moment. The other aspect to this, Matthew, is that he came to Britain illegally in the back of a lorry in 2000. He was a failed asylum seeker, and he wanted to try to kill us all. This has been going on for a very long time, hasn't it? It's like an act of self-harm as a nation.
Yeah, look, I mean, my instant reaction is the same as everybody else's, which is, great disgust that these people did, were planning to do, and anxiety. I have to say, I think we have to let the parole board do its job, because we can't have politicians deciding. The parole board is completely independent. We can't have politicians deciding this. But maybe there's a case for the sentences themselves not being long enough in these sorts of cases, because then they would still be in jail if their sentences had been longer. Or, I was going to say, what is the status, his current immigration status? So hopefully, when he is released, whether that's on parole or generally, then the government will be looking to deport him if he's in this country illegally.
Well, he shouldn't be released. He should be if it's at all possible legally to deport him, he should be deported immediately. If it isn't possible to deport him, we should be changing the law. Remember, the words sleeper agent were used. So if this man is sophisticated enough to come here illegally as a sleeper agent, I think he can bamboozle a few tests in jail.
Absolutely.
We are risking putting someone who's a professional terrorist back into our...
The problem is they will have to be released at the end of their sentences unless they're in charge of something else, because otherwise they're being held illegally.
They should release him to the country he came from.
Absolutely.
Well, he was also, at the time of his arrest, it was a long time ago, he was also... quite a formidable opponent to MI5. I was looking at this before I came on air today, and there are articles published, it's about 20 odd years ago now, where they couldn't ascertain if that was his real name. They were interrogating him. MI5 were interrogating this guy, and they were not even sure if that was his real name. They weren't even sure what country exactly he came from. We believe it was Algeria, but he spent time in Afghanistan. This guy is the real deal when it comes to jihad, this guy. And why on earth would we be letting this guy out? And as well, Chloe...
But they haven't made the decision yet. We must have on him.
But
on the other one they have.
They shouldn't even be considered.
Shouldn't even be considered. Do you think we have to have a little look at some of the parole board or some of these people that vouch for them? Because there is a thing called taqiyya, isn't there, amongst certain harder aspects of the Islamic faith, which is that it's OK to lie in order to further your Islamist agenda.
Yes, absolutely.
Well, here you go.
I mean, they are well-trained liars. As someone who is planning serious attacks like this, these are very well-trained individuals. I'm sorry, but if they sit in front of a parole board and say, "Oh, I don't believe in my jihadi ideology anymore. I'm all converted. I'm not going to commit an attack," it seems like they just believe them. I mean, that's the impression I'm getting from all of these terrorists that are suddenly being let out. They can't just believe them if someone sits in front of them and says, "Oh, yes, I've been to the classes. I'm no longer an extremist." I mean, this is a serious national security different. And also, we need to be looking at cases like this and thinking, and what happened last week, and thinking about how do we prevent attacks like these happening. This is someone we're talking about here who came on a lorry. Why aren't we treating what's happening in the Channel like a national emergency and actually seeing it as a major security threat?
Yeah.
There could be more people like him coming into the country as we speak.
Well, again, it comes off that revelation last night, doesn't it? Many people watching this now might have been watching it this time last night. You know, it appears as though we've got a member of the Afghan National Army, Special Forces in Afghanistan, who seems to be running a people smuggling operation across the English Channel. The guy from Luton, though, was homegrown. He was from Luton, who then converted to Islam and became very, very radical. That in itself indicates another problem that we've got, doesn't it?
Yeah, look, I would hope, and I have confidence that the parole board are not naive, perhaps not naive in the way that people with less experience, like those, you know, vicars who were testifying for people who went on to try and commit hideous crimes. I'm thinking of the incidents in Liverpool, for example, who were just naive, and I think where there were examples of people lying about their faith to try and, you know, to try and forward their case. So I hope that the parole board, who is quite sophisticated, and will take that into account, and that they can see through people who are, you know, who are more obviously saying it for the sake of it. That's my hope. Obviously, I hope I'm proved correct, because otherwise we'll be in trouble.
Actually, Matthew, it goes back to something you said. I don't believe the parole board are naive, and I do think they have great level of experience. Their job is hard. The problem is they're responding to the rules as they are. So when Matthew says politicians shouldn't be involved, you're correct. On a day-to-day basis, of course, they should be correct. But what politicians need to do with speed is change those rules.
Yeah, I agree. Yes,
so that the parole board can behave differently, because these are not people who are gangsters, you know, who are selling drugs or whatever. These are people who, in many cases, trained with a deep ideology that they were prepared to murder over
and die for.
And that's. I mean, look, you can't persuade most people to change football teams. Forget ideology. Yeah. And I tell you something now. I love Formula One. I love McLaren. I'm not going to die for them. If I'm prepared to die for something, that would suggest that I'm not prepared to change the way I think. And we need to take that into account when we look at freeing these people. They're not ordinary criminals.
But this is why people are angry. It's one of the many reasons why people are angry, I think, Chloe. And people often talk, don't they, about, oh, God, I mean, Gary Neville, classic example, you know, oh, we need to stop using this divisive rhetoric. Do you know what we could do, Gary, is we could stop releasing jihadis potentially back into the same community that is still reeling
to radicalise more people
from an Islamist who has just tried to kill as many Jews as possible. I'll tell you what that community needs now is the possibility of the return of a bloke who wanted to smear rice in on as many cars as possible, douse it around, indiscriminately kill people, and then when the police officer attended his house, by the way, not by mistake, they didn't know he was there, they were there for another reason. They stumbled upon this guy and he just slaughtered a copper. You know, this guy, this is the last thing that community or any community needs.
I mean, I don't think that this guy should ever see the light of day. And I do get the impression, I know you folks say that the parole board, they take their jobs very seriously, but I do get the impression that they aren't taking these extremists serious enough. If you speak to people who actually try to keep people like ISIS under control in the Middle East, they'd be saying absolutely no way should you be letting an individual like this out. Why are we always being so kind to criminals?
Well, maybe he should have been given an indeterminate sentence.
And the other thing is,
victims are treated like criminals and criminals treated like victims.
There's a mental health issue here. Imagine he was diagnosed with a mental health issue because he'd murdered someone. They wouldn't let him out. So why have they let him out just because he's
but he should be in Broadmoor,
he's supposedly a terrorist? This is a man who sat in his house and has decided to kill as many people as possible. There is a mental health issue there, and he is not safe for us to be around.
Well, look, we're going to move it on because I have got two hugely, well, questionably even bigger stories actually for you. The first one is about how many people in our National Health Service are basically racist in terms of anti-Semites and are of the kind of dangerous pro-Palestinian persuasion. I say that because there's been some doctors suspended and indeed struck off recently for their views. We have them treating us in our hour of need, do we? The other one, of course, is this China spy scandal. Huge revelations this evening. I'll fill you in on exactly what they are, but it's not overstating it to say that it could finally be the end of this government. But, you know, if you need a bit of cheering up. Anyway, here's how. It's the Great British Giveaway. Massive motorhome. Wads of cash. Go on.
You're not going to want to miss our greatest Great British giveaway so far. You could bank an incredible £30,000 in tax-free cash to spend however you like. And if that wasn't enough, you'll also get to drive away in this brand new motorhome. With thanks to Marquis Leisure, this brand new 2025 Benimar Primero could be yours. It comes with all the mod cons you'd expect from a vehicle worth over £74,000 and comfortably sleeps 4 people. This prize package is worth over £104,000. And remember, if you can dream it, you can drive it away. For another chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB16 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrants must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 31st of October. The winner will be contacted live on GB News, week commencing 10th November. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Welcome back. Right, look, that breaking news on the front of the Daily Telegraph. The man at the centre of the China spy scandal is Sir Keir Starmer's national security advisor. He's Jonathan Powell, and it's emerged now that he's suppressed a major Whitehall investigation into Chinese spying. The government is hanging on by a thread this evening. Plus, we will go live to GB News presenter Ben Leo, who is outside the White House for us, gathering info on his phone there as we speak. Does President Trump deserve a Nobel Peace Prize for brokering peace in the Middle East? But this affects us all. We've got damning evidence for you about the NHS being infiltrated by vile anti-Semitic racism. Stay tuned.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters. Real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up? About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
Talk to our favourite space expert, Andy Lound. Good morning, Andy. Because, some people will say, well, why does it matter? But it changes our perspective, doesn't it, of cosmic evolution?
Yes, good morning, Beth. Yes, it does. It's quite an important discovery. And again, it just shows that science constantly moves on. The instrument they've used, Gravity Plus, has taken the light from 4 major telescopes and actually analysed that of a black hole. And at the centre of the black hole, you have the quasar, which is the active nuclei of a black hole. And surrounding that is a ring of dust and gas, the accretion disk. And it's thought that the black holes were obviously feeding on this, the materials falling into the black hole. Now, that was measured at 800 times the mass of our star, the sun. However, when they were looking at it very carefully with the new instruments, better resolution, they found that what's quite exciting is the fact that the radiation which surrounds the black hole and part of this accretion disk is actually blasting a lot of this dust and gas out, away from the region. So the electromagnetic radiation and the various interactions is blasting much of this material away, which means, of course, it's not eating up all that material, so the black hole therefore could be up to 10 times smaller than they actually thought. This is a really important discovery because we're trying to understand why there were such massive black holes in the early universe, and our physics wasn't really fitting in with that. But now, with this new instrument and the new measurements we're doing, we're getting a better handle. It does mean, of course, that a lot of the objects we've seen in the early universe now, and looking at those early quasars, we're having to do recalculations and redo a resetting. But it will help the physics of understanding how the early universe formed.
GB News, the People's Channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
So it wasn't as well this government's position, it was the Tory government before's position. Now that's not a political to and fro, that's a matter of law.
Joining us after the England football game, you will have missed the revelations at 9 p.m. This is huge, OK? So basically, the government stands accused of lying about the China spy scandal, of suppressing it, and the damning revelations are that Sir Keir Starmer's head of national security is accused, anyway, of suppressing a support into Chinese espionage before this trial collapsed. If it turns out that Sir Keir Starmer has lied about this, he will have to go. He will have to go. And so, look, watch this space, because in about 5 minutes' time, we're returning to this, and it's big stuff. But before that, this is, I find, absolutely terrifying. So Wes Streeting, who's the Health Secretary, has now vowed immediate bans on anti-Semitic doctors from treating patients under a plan to, quote, root out the evil of racism from the NHS. So there's been several cases recently. The Health Secretary is set to update legislation so that doctors accused of misconduct are stripped of their right to practice whilst they're under investigation. And this is it. Has the NHS, our health service, been infiltrated by racist pro-Palestinians? What about Dr. Rameh Al-Adwan, who celebrated the October 7th attack and made a throat-slitting gesture at Jews in a video? She will face a retrial after she was ruled fit to practice last month by the Tribunal Service, which said her comments would not alarm or concern members of the public. What about Manoj Sen, a now retired surgeon who worked in the NHS for 25 years? He was struck off the UK medical register after calling a Jewish man, quote, vermin and a rodent. In a Facebook post, he said that a Jewish man belonged in the flames of a crematorium, adding that he was regretful enough that rats were not liquidated at Auschwitz. Oh, and of course, the father of the Manchester synagogue Jihadi was a trauma surgeon, Faraj al-Shami. He praised the October the 7th attacks as Allah's men on earth. Joining me now is Conservative counsellor and Rabbi Arnie Saunders. Arnie, thank you very much. Is the NHS infested with racist pro-Palestinians?
I'm afraid it is. It isn't too widespread, of course. We mustn't exaggerate, but yes, there definitely is a hardcore of some doctors and nurses. It starts with wearing pro-Palestinian badges and what have you, which in itself is not a great deal. But then the examples you've just given are absolutely appalling. There's also an example literally round the corner to me, and I think round the corner to where you used to live, in the Manchester Children's Hospital, where a young boy was refused care unashamedly because he was Jewish, eventually came back without wearing any visibly Jewish insignia, and he got wonderful care. And these things are not, it's not just somebody saying, oh, we're pro-Palestinian, we're against Israel. This is naked anti-Semitism.
How on earth do we remove this? Because this is terrifying. So it works both ways. I mean, there's the naked anti-Semitism aspect of it as well. I mean, there is also, to be honest with you, I would say, concerns that I might have personally if I went in there. I'm not Jewish, but, my views on these topics are pretty well known. The implication here is that if you or members of your community or if someone with my views went in to get treatment from the NHS, if we encountered some of these people, we might not get good health care.
Absolutely, and it is terrifying. Although I must say, I've recently been an inpatient in the NHS for various reasons, and I've actually had Muslim consultants who have been absolutely fantastic. So, you know, it is only a small minority, but those people must be rooted out, and there must be a root and branch reform of the NHS. And I think it's got to start with banning insignia, even if it's something like, you know, just Free Palestine or whatever. It's just that what it's associated with, and the examples that you and I have given are just absolutely alarming and, as you say, terrifying.
I wonder about what checks are being done. This is something I would like to find out more about. So, you know, look, we in order to run the NHS, you know, undeniably we need a level of immigration in order to do that, and that's, you know, I think most people accept that to an extent. Quite a lot of that immigration is coming from Muslim countries where we know anti-Semitism is in some cases actually actively encouraged in some of those countries. What checks are being done to make sure that, OK, this person might be a qualified trauma surgeon, but actually, if you look at their Facebook page, they're also fans of Hamas? Yeah, we need to check this stuff, don't we?
Yeah, and the thing is, what you've just said is something that's actually very easy to do. It's very easy to, you know, when I was a candidate in elections, I had to give all my social media, I'm on Facebook, Instagram, whatever it is, and it had to be checked. And these things are not very difficult. We're not talking about, you know, something that's very difficult to do, and it should be done. Yeah, you're right. We do need people from abroad. We could have a debate about, you know, why we've got here, why over the last few decades, really, we've allowed that situation to develop. We haven't sort of developed homegrown doctors and nurses that, as well as in other trades, that we don't need to rely on immigration so much. But now that we do, you're absolutely right. And these are very fundamental checks. And maybe, you know, people should have a sort of quarantine. You know, an animal comes to the country, it's put in quarantine. Maybe a person should be put in quarantine for a few weeks just to observe them and to make sure that, you know, they're no threat. Even people like the former Chief Rabbi Jakovitz, who came over from Germany, was put in internment in the Isle of Man simply because he was German. They, you know, they didn't know whether he, you know, was a spy or whether he was a genuine refugee. Nowadays, you know, there's just no such thing as internment. I mean, it would be too many to do it anyway.
But my concern is not just with the NHS, it's right across our public services. Right across our public services. The head of the National Education Union is on record calling to globalise the Intifada. You know, I shudder to think what else is going on out there. And what the terrifying bit, of course, is the stuff we don't know about. And that's a real difficulty for us. But can I thank you very much for coming on? It's great to speak to you, and all the very best as well. I'm aware that obviously you knew a lot of people who were caught up, sadly, in that attack in Manchester. So Rabbi Arnie Saunders there, who is also a Conservative councillor, take care. Right, we approached Faraj Al-Shami, Dr. Rameh Al-Adwan and Manoj Sen for comment. We did not hear back from them. But if we do hear back from them, we will, of course, put their statements out in full. A Department of Health and Social Care source told us it is ridiculous that racist medics are free to continue operating with impunity until a tribunal can be held. Wes is furious, that's Wes Streeting, with the glacial pace the system operates at and the failure to recognise blatant anti-Semitism. What does this say to Jewish patients about the safety of NHS care? Wes ordered the department last week to urgently work up plans so doctors have their licence suspended while awaiting tribunal. He's got zero tolerance for racism and the NHS must have a zero tolerance policy. Can I just say, it's not just about racism for me, this. It's not. If you come in and you're someone who's been prominent about your quotes-unquote right-wing views or something like that, I think the same would apply to you with some of these people. It is a concern for us all. Right, I've got tomorrow's newspaper front pages. Huge news is in relation to the Chinese spy scandal. Big questions. Have we been lied to about this by the government? Because if we have, it's going to come out and they're going to have to go. Stay tuned.
I forecast a perfect holiday in the sun.
Weather looking good then?
For sure, and no worries about our travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Some unsettled weather across eastern areas of Spain. Storm Alice is set to bring heavy showers and also some thunderstorms. Mostly dry and settled across Madeira and also Tenerife, but all eyes on eastern areas of Spain. Some intense thunderstorms here likely to bring some localised flooding. A few showers across parts of Sardinia on Friday, but elsewhere, once again, mostly dry and settled. Plenty of sunshine, and this theme will continue over into the weekend with warm temperatures too, widely in the mid to high 20s.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hi there and welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. It is a largely cloudy night out there with a few spots of rain in places, but there will be some cloud breaks, and then increasingly so on Friday we'll see brighter skies develop. High pressure is moving in. That doesn't necessarily mean clear skies or indeed entirely dry weather. We do have a lot of thick cloud coming in at the same time, and that will continue to bring some outbreaks of light rain and drizzle, particularly for the north and west of Scotland, Northern Ireland, North West England and North Wales. Away from these areas, actually, a few cloud breaks, particularly towards the northeast and also the southwest, and in the southwest with light winds, temperatures dipping in a few shelter spots into the mid-single figures, a few mist and fog patches first thing. But the best of the sunshine during the morning will be eastern Scotland. Now for Shetland, outbreaks of rain from the word go, and a few spots of rain continuing for the northwest Highlands, but mostly dry across the rest of Scotland, and plenty of sunshine through the central belt as well as eastern parts. The cloud broken up well across northeast England as well, but actually for the Midlands and Wales as well, we've got a weak weather front lingering here, bringing thicker cloud and some drizzly rain from time to time. That's going to drift its way south, and that means that southern parts will be cloudier compared with Thursday. And after any mist and fog lifts across the southwest, I think we keep generally cloudy skies. Brighter skies will develop further north across much of Scotland, northern England and North Wales, and where we do get that brightness, temperatures reaching 17 or 18 Celsius. Then into the weekend, we start with, again, a few mist and fog patches, but plenty of dry and fine weather for many. Best of the sunshine this time, Wales, the Midlands, eastern England, eastern Scotland. Western Scotland turning increasingly grey and damp through the day, and into Sunday, well, it's very similar. High pressure holds on, a lot of cloud around, but some sunshine in places.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
no,
because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. Let's have a look at these newspaper front pages. So we start with the Metro and we go with peace within reach at last. Dramatic breakthrough in the Middle East. Let's go next to the Independent. Peace at last. Relief and joy as Gaza deal is agreed. It's quite an interesting way to interpret some of the videos I've seen coming out of Gaza, which appear to show them still calling for the death of Jews. But anyway, the Daily Mirror, a moment of shared hope after 2 years of unrelenting horror, relief, tears and cautious optimism. It's the Gaza peace deal. The iPaper, ceasefire deal for Gaza. Israel to withdraw troops and hostages are set for release. We're going to go to the Sun now. Exclusive, posh on marriage. So he's smart, good-looking and funny, but even David Beckham snores. Remarkable, that's on the front page. I do love the Sun, but come on. The Daily Mail, blessed is the peacemaker. and utterly pointless the virtue-signalling Liberals like Starmer and Macron were quite. By the way, shortly we're going to take you live to Ben Leah outside the White House for the very latest on this peace deal. The Daily Telegraph, they also go with Gaza, but this is what we're going to focus on now. Release the dossier into Chinese spying blocked by the Treasury, and this was the breaking news today. So we know that this government is right smack bang in the middle of a Chinese spy scandal that could bring them down. Well, tonight, Jonathan Powell, who is the National Security Advisor for Sir Keir Starmer, suppressed a major Whitehall investigation into Chinese spying after lobbying from the Treasury. Mr. Powell decided in June that this government would not publish details about espionage from China. His decision came after Treasury officials said releasing information could damage our economy and our relationship with China. But, of course, we all know the main reason why this Chinese spy deal collapsed, trial collapsed even, was supposedly because the previous Tory government, we hadn't described China as a national security threat. We hadn't described them as the enemy. This would indicate, or appear to anyway, that it was this government that suppressed that information and that they are at fault for this spy case collapsing, Sean.
That's correct. And my understanding is the previous Tory government did say that China was a express danger to our national security. So, as far as I can recall, that statement is also incorrect. Look, the real problem here is twofold. One, it looks like our national security is for sale. No matter what our deal is with China or how integrated we are in them, our safety comes first. And secondly, there's questions around Keir Starmer's judgment, Keir Starmer's ability to be honest with us all. This is not the first time. This is probably time 4, 5, 6 that we're debating has the Prime Minister lied to us at all. And why this is really important, when he was in opposition, Keir Starmer, Jess Phillips, all of them were so self-righteous. So all we need to do now is judge them by the same standards they wanted to judge everybody else.
Sir Keir Starmer, I think, Matthew, is going to have to claim that he did not know about the full extent of a report into Chinese espionage that was given to his head of national security in order for his line on this to hold water. I don't think people will believe that.
Well, I mean, he hasn't said that that China isn't a threat. He said very legalistically, as a lawyer, that the issue was how it was graded as a threat at the time of the offences, alleged offences, which now the case has collapsed, are not even alleged. They're not even so they're technically offences. Is what I'm trying to say. Exactly. They didn't happen. Absolutely. And so that is a bit of a legalistic defence. Whether it will hold up is a big question. There is stuff in the version of the report that was issued, which was incorporated with various other things, which is pretty firm on China. But whether that's enough to see the government through, we will see.
Priti Patel, the Shadow Foreign Secretary, said this is yet another example of cover-up and collusion within the Labour government when it comes to foreign policy and China. Labour clearly cannot be trusted when it comes to national security. Well, I do wonder, Chloe, whether or not there's a couple of things at play here. Whether this government is willing to lie to the British public in order to appease China, or secondly, whether they have been compromised by China in some way.
I mean, it could be both. It could be that they are happily lying to us, not just to keep our economy going, but because they have essentially been bullied by China into doing so. I think Keir Starmer is very willing to lie. He's done nothing but lie whilst he has been in power. And I know, Matthew, you've tried to defend him, saying it's all about what happened between 2021 and 2023. But that's the whole point, is he is claiming that the government and the security services claim that China wasn't a threat at the time. But we've had a whole host of very important people come out and say that blatantly was not the case.
I think he's probably going to have to more evidence to justify what he said. He's probably going to have to come out.
The former head of MI6, the former head of the Civil Service, the former head of National Security, the Director of Public Prosecutions and the Crown Prosecution Service all coming out, that was before tonight, and saying that they did not buy Keir Starmer's explanation about why this Chinese spy trial collapsed. And now tonight the revelation is that the head of National Security for Keir Starmer, Jonathan Powell, suppressed a report on Chinese espionage.
I mean, if he can spin this to just throw Jonathan Powell under the bus for this and completely blame him and say, I wasn't told about this report, I was lied to, then maybe Keir Starmer will keep his position, but I think it's hanging on a thread.
He has to be careful. I want to make it very clear. all these senior people who've come out against him, such as Simon Case, that is unprecedented. There's an unwritten rule in our political world. If you're in a very senior job like that, when you retire, you become silent. You might write your memoirs, but you don't name people. For them to come out, because he has tested their integrity, they've gone back and tested his. They've basically said, there was enough for a case, and we told you so. So he has to answer that question. And the other pieces, of course, and I'll go back to my theme, is our national security for sale. Keir Starmer should have said, no, we need to keep our people safe. And let's be clear, half an hour on TikTok will show you that China is trying to interfere in all kinds of things that go on in this country. So it's clear that they are a threat to the country. And for the Prime Minister not to acknowledge that and act on it, to my mind, is shocking.
Look, there's some headlines here in the Times. Starmer accused of lying about China threat in spy case collapse. Yeah, that's a bad headline. In the
well, yeah, look, it's not one that anybody in Number 10 would have wanted.
I mean, is he just a liar?
Well, he's been accused of it. I don't have evidence that he's done it yet. If there is evidence he's done it, then I'll pay the price.
Because it's a question for the British public now, I think, isn't it, about who do you trust? Is it all of these people, including the ex-head of MI6? Or is it the bloke who couldn't be honest about a meeting he had with a woman in Oldham during his speech? Is it the bloke?
Well, there are two different versions of that. I mean, you know, one of them's got to be not telling the truth, and I'll say no more about that.
He has told countless lies since he came into power.
No,
they lied before the general election about what they're going to do. They said we won't put up taxes on working people. He had that heart-to-heart with a pensioner.
He hasn't put up taxes on working people.
Bear to see this pensioner getting cold, and then sure enough they took the winter fuel payment away. Then they lied. They lied to us when they reinstated.
The WASPy women weren't in the manifesto.
Rather than being honest and saying actually this was a really unpopular policy, they said we have kick-started the economy so well, we fixed the foundations that we've now got enough cash in the pot to give you the winter fuel payment back. And then he's lied about reforms policies and said, oh, reform are going to make you pay for the NHS, reform are going to make you, they're going to kick all the hard-working doctors, nurses and teachers out of the country.
Just because this is important. 5 hours ago, Sir Keir Starmer, this was before the revelations in the Daily Telegraph about this, Starmer denies ministers were involved in the China spy trial collapse. That now might not be true.
Well, if it's proven not to be true, then he's obviously in serious trouble. But he must be confident that is true. Otherwise, he wouldn't have said it five hours ago.
No, he must have been confident.
Let's be confident.
Going to get found out. He's done that before as well. When he had somebody around under lockdown rules, he was confident he wasn't going to find his.
And he was cleared by the unlike Boris.
If I was David Lammy, I would be preparing my speech.
Oh, really?
Yes.
OK. All right. All right, well, look, again, I'll just say quickly, everyone involved in that, there's two people who were accused of spying. They deny it, and, of course, the case is gone now, so they have to be considered innocent. We're yet to hear from Jonathan Powell. I imagine he denies any wrongdoing. Coming up, we're going to go live to Ben Leo, GB News presenter Ben Leo. He's outside the White House, getting that reaction from Trump's peace deal. Is on the front of loads of front pages. We'll give you the latest.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
I was very lucky enough to be at the station today to welcome it in, be part of the group welcoming it into the station. It's about 1:15 this morning. So I'm back down in London again now. It's been a busy old day. But yeah, I've been on that train previously on the main line. We took it out for a test run a couple of weeks ago, and we were in those wagons under moonlight. So this little engine pulled us along a branch line. And under test, but this incredible replica train, a complete train, genuinely is a direct link with the past, and lets us understand a little bit what it was like to have technology like this at the time, and then showcase this phenomenal little machine and this train, these vehicles, how we can solve problems today, actually, and how far we've come, and shows the heritage of Britain's genuinely incredible railway network.
It is a pretty little train, actually, isn't it? And if you say that it can help you solve problems today, in what way? I mean, this compared with that machine it is next to, it's incredibly primitive. So what can we learn from this little thing?
Well, I think that the same problems extend today as today, right? That we need to move people and things from A to B. And what's so lovely about seeing a machine like this, Locomotion Number 1 replica, of course, is that it genuinely shows us how someone thought, I've got a problem. How do I move coal and people from up there to over there? And actually the answer was railways. And so often today, the most efficient way of moving people around still is railways.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first.
Well, and that's what you get on GB News. Lively debates, lively conversation.
And we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pierce.
And me, Miriam Gates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
No matter the state it's in, this is our nation. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for a genuine, honest discussion on where we have been, where we are going, and where we are with the people who set the direction. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Only on GB News.
Welcome back to Patrick Christys tonight, only on GB News. The front page of The Guardian, celebrations after Hamas and Israel agree first phase of deal. There's also a story there. Nigel Farage thinks that teachers are poisoning our kids with Marxism. The Daily Express, Trump's peace they go for. That's the Gaza deal, obviously. The Times, Trump celebrates the art of the everlasting peace deal. And then we go to the Jerusalem Post as well. I've got here. I don't know if we've got that on the screen. But no, fair enough. But we'll do that in the next hour. Right, quickly, because we've got the next hour with the papers. The Trump peace deal. Does he deserve a Nobel Peace Prize?
I tell you what part of Trump's legacy could be. I know lots of people on the left utterly hate the man, but there's two things I'd say. Firstly, he was the first one who said to European leaders, let's try to end the war in Ukraine. He tried to make that happen. It doesn't seem like he's been successful so far, but he has tried. And look, if peace breaks out in the Middle East on the back of his efforts, they're going to have to give him a Nobel Prize because nobody else in our long tortured history of the Middle East have got close.
And as the Mail have got on the front page as well, completely ridiculous for the pro-Palestine brigade to be out and about on the streets, isn't it? Because, it's happened. Ceasefire now. Trump's done it. Stay home.
I mean, they're completely unwilling to praise Trump. It's hilarious how they all go silent when it's the guy who they despise and think is some sort of fascist has actually potentially brought peace to the Middle East. I mean, I think we need to wait and see what happens. Because this is very early stages. We know Hamas have in the past agreed to release hostages and then not. I think we have reached the end of this only if and when Hamas have actually agreed to lay down their arms and have no part of the governance of Gaza. They've already said they don't want Tony Blair running the place. Hamas have.
That shows they're getting cleverer.
I had a guy on earlier from the Revolutionary Communist International Party who was saying, he doesn't like this because actually we just need, the end of, Zionism, by which we all know what they really mean. So they're not actually happy with this deal. They're not happy with it. And basically, the reason why they're not happy with it, I think, is because Hamas aren't in power.
Yeah, look, I'm sure for some people on the extreme views have that. I think you have to give Trump his due. At the moment, it's looking like a very positive development. You saw Yvette Cooper in the bulletin welcoming it, with other European leaders welcoming it. Let's make sure, hope that it holds, and that that Trump realises that you can't push it too far. That you have to have Palestinian involvement, not Hamas, but Palestinian involvement in running Gaza. It can't become a golf course. A golf course, yes.
Yes, it can't
become Trumpland.
A luxury hotel and golf course.
Absolutely.
There we go. Right. Well, next, yes, Prime Minister Keir Starmer's been over to India. In fact, now I should just say now. We're doing it now. He's been in India, and apparently he even had a go at speaking Hindi at the Global FinTech Summit in Mumbai. I mean, to be fair, he sounds about as natural speaking Hindi as he does speaking English.
Mujhe yahan aake bahut khushi hui.
Just a second, I want you to suffer through that again.
Mujhe yahan aake bahut khushi hui.
Grief. What do you make of that?
I tell you, when I ran for mayor, I visited all the different communities in London, of which is probably 300. people are very charmed when you try to speak their language, and you should always try. But let's be clear, Hindi was one of the tough ones. Polish as well. I really failed at the Polish, so I have some sympathy for the man.
Can you imagine if you tried a bit of Bollywood dancing as well? That would be one thing to watch.
Trudeau.
See, I was better at that.
Turbaned up, everything. Yeah. I mean, you know, as a former Labour advisor, what do you think?
I mean, it's very tricky. For example, if you go to a Sikh temple, you have to put on particular gear, which you know, doesn't necessarily look natural on people who aren't themselves Sikh. So, you know, whenever we did a Sikh visit with Ed Miliband, there were no cameras there. Other politicians are braver. You remember we saw Boris in the full gear and loving it. It just depends on how relaxed you feel. The problem is that Keir's not the most relaxed person. Yes, and Keir is not the most relaxed. So it's tricky. I thought it was all right.
If people have the decency to invite you to their home, to their place of worship, you should always try.
Give it a go.
Yeah.
Give it a go. Yes, La Cuenta por favor is about the extent of my thing. But anyway, right, when we come back, big round of newspaper front pages. There's going to be chock-a-block in the hour. Make sure you don't go anywhere. Stay tuned.
Today's outlook: cool, calm and completely horizontal. Boxed Aircon sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hi there and welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. It is a largely cloudy night out there with a few spots of rain in places, but there will be some cloud breaks, and then increasingly so on Friday we'll see brighter skies develop. High pressure is moving in. That doesn't necessarily mean clear skies or indeed entirely dry weather. We do have a lot of thick cloud coming in at the same time, and that will continue to bring some outbreaks of light rain and drizzle, particularly for the north and west of Scotland, Northern Ireland, North West England and North Wales. Away from these areas, actually, a few cloud breaks, particularly towards the northeast and also the southwest and in the southwest with light winds, temperatures dipping in a few shelter spots into the mid-single figures, a few mist and fog patches first thing. But the best of the sunshine during the morning will be eastern Scotland. Now for Shetland, outbreaks of rain from the word go and a few spots of rain continuing for the northwest Highlands, but mostly dry across the rest of Scotland, and plenty of sunshine through the central belt as well as eastern parts. The cloud broken up well across northeast England as well, but actually for the Midlands, Wales as well, we've got a weak weather front lingering here, bringing thicker cloud and some drizzly rain from time to time. That's going to drift its way south, and that means that southern parts will be cloudier compared with Thursday. And after any mist and fog lifts across the southwest, I think we keep generally cloudy skies. Brighter skies will develop further north across much of Scotland, northern England and North Wales, and where we do get that brightness, temperatures reaching 17 or 18 Celsius. Then into the week.